You're a theater kid, right?
Uh-huh. Are we in it?
Yeah, I guess.
We come out of the void fully formed, ready to loosely horse shit. Okay. Yeah, I'm a theater kid. Why? Are you asking if I...
No, I just when I was on acid with you, and we were all like playing music and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was that weird occurrence. Like I had like a moment where I was like, "Oh, you're all a bunch of fucking theater kids, aren't you?" Mind you, I'm also like I'm a theater techie. I came from a performance arts high school. It just never occurred to me. I don't know why.
But you also had a punk phase, which is the natural enemy of the theater kid.
I don't know if that's true.
But theater kids are into being guided and highly organized and directed and all fucking one another.
Well,
punk
like I said,
kids are surly and don't like to be touched and beat the shit out of theater kids, in my experience.
Right. Well, like I said, I'm a techie. I was a techie. So, like, I was not a full theater kid. I never really performed. I just did I built sets and, like, did the thing where the lights go out and you have to move shit around. So, like, that kind of bridges it, right? Is like I knew theater kids. I wasn't a theater kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be a punk and, like...
Well, you're already wearing all black. It's perfect
kids.
for moving stage pieces, yeah.
Exactly.
Did you build sets? I did I also majored in theater in college and undergrad, and I did what they call practicum, where you do rotations, like learning to... Here's what it's like to build a set. Here's how you sew a costume. In case you want to get into any of these like supportive roles in theater, building sets is so fun because it's like a construction job where you don't have to be as safe or know as much, and you're building wild crap.
Yes, it's the same in college. I built sets for like short films and stuff too, and like it's great because you're also building sets. It's like building a house that doesn't need to stand up for more than a couple days.
That's right.
Yeah, it's lovely and it's chill and you can listen to music and yeah. I did like the audio visual stuff for a lot of plays. I did a really cool video for a performance of Hamlet Machine that was like it's like a weird. I'm pretty sure it's German. It was like a really weird, wild, surrealist play. And I got to do a bunch of cool footage of that. Yeah,
I haven't heard of that. When you said it, my brain pictured an omelet machine, which sounds delicious.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
I just built a bunch of flooring, and I still had very fun times. And they taught me how to create, like, use an airbrush to make stippling so that and then you like sponge on it so it looks like marble flooring, and it's just a thin sheet of plywood.
Yes.
And I was so proud of it. I framed it in my dorm room, and people were like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "It's flooring, but I made it. I made it with my own hands."
Same with, you can do that with wood flooring too, like wood planks with paints, specific paints. Yeah, I have a piece of, or I had a piece of marble wall from a Mel Gibson movie, Edge of Darkness, from the set of that.
Nice.
Which is very random. It's just made out of foam.
From a play version or the prop from the movie?
From the movie.
You know what I saw when I was just walking around L.A., popping into random places one time at a pawn shop? Do you know the made-for-TV version of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that ran on, I think, the BBC?
I know of it. I've never seen it.
Okay. They had the Vogon head, like the alien that reads terrible poetry. And
did you buy it
so bad? No, It remains the purchase I most wish it was like $1,200, which I could not afford at the time, but I still wish I did. Because in the grand scheme of life, that money will come back to you or not matter ultimately. But in the moment, you're like, well, that's like my rent. That's so much.
I had the same thing when I worked at Cracked, and I think I could have afforded it if I just moved money around. It was Mulder's badge up for auction. And it was like... Dave. Why didn't I get that? Yeah. Why didn't I get that?
Oh, my God. Yeah. I wonder how many there are, too, because I'm sure there's more than one, but probably not that many.
Yeah, probably maybe like 10, 20. I don't know. I don't know how many they had to make for that show. he doesn't he doesn't flash his badge that often.
No,
frankly.
he just goes for it. But man, now I just want to imagine you recording Fox Mulder's a Maniac, and every time you carefully like put his badge on, I'm ready.
Yeah,
My omelet
exactly.
machine's warmed up. I'm ready to record. That's great.
Oh man, yeah, I want to go back in time just for that badge. It's a real shame. But yeah, my high school, the coolest thing, just going back to theater stuff, is our high school stage was like, it wasn't like a fancy theater. It was actually like an old gym that they would just put like folding chairs and like, you know, stadium seating, sort of like that really cheap metal, bleachers. But what that created was a situation where we could literally saw through the floor of the stage or saw through the walls, because it was such a wreck that you could dress it to be whatever it wanted to be. And it was a performance arts school. So that was like, this was our football, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like all the money went into it. So like for like the production of Cabaret, we like redressed the entire room to look like in like an old timey cabaret. And we had like waiters and shit, and we made it interactive. Like you could just really do a lot, which was really fun from the tech point of view, where it's like, yeah, we can actually like just build these big structures into the stage.
Oh, we were the opposite. I had to like personally raise money so we could have a fog machine for a thing.
Oh,
and
that
we
sucks.
brought our own costume pieces from home and shit. In fact, junior year, they announced our theater department was going to be completely cut. Football was our football for sure.
Right.
And one of my first public speaking things ever in my life, and one of the most terrifying times in my life, I remember it so well to this day, was giving a speech in front of the like school board and gathered public, you know, people who were voting on, you know, like calling on them to not cancel theater and talking about the importance of theater molding young minds and shit. And they brought it back.
That's great.
Success. Yeah.
It's like a movie.
Yeah, it was really fun, but terrifying. Just devastatingly scary. Way scarier than doing a play, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine. Did you see the footage of the guy in Texas who's trying to make it illegal to treat your trans kid with respect and everyone yelling at him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good for the kids. Super
Good for
into
those
it.
kids.
Yeah, great job. I don't understand the point of view. I can't empathize with that guy. And not just because he's a hate monger, but also to be in a room where everyone hates you and is yelling at you like, clap, clap, we hate you. Clap, clap, we hate you. I would cry and crumple into a ball and roll away out of the room. Like, I don't know how people do that. And they're just like, whatever, haters are going to hate. And you're like, damn, dude. I don't know how the vibe of the room doesn't get to you.
That's sort of the problem, right?
Is that they don't give a fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that they also interpret it as like, well, I must be doing something right. You know, because I think of the idea of if I'm in a room being booed of people that I think are objectively wrong, I probably would care less, but it still would get to me, obviously. But in this case, it's like, I don't know. We've talked about this before. If you're on the side of limiting the basic human rights for any group of people, you're on the wrong side of history.
Time makes fools of us all, but you more so. And more quickly.
It's that thing, like there was they were signing that banning trans kids from like participating in sports, and they were signing that like with just a group of all fucking white people and kids that were dragged there to sit around this signing that was just hateful. And I looked at that and it's like, these people are going to be so like, they're in 100 years from now, not 100 years because they'll be dead. In 50 years from now, it's going to be like the old civil rights photos where they're going to have to like pretend they aren't in the photo, you know, where they're going to hope to God no one notices they're in there. And it's like, what are you fucking doing? Like, when has history ever been like, yeah, these people shouldn't have rights, and we were all like, yeah, you're right. like that's never happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the end of the spectrum where it's like, even the idea of criminalizing people That's still the frontier, because most people still feel comfortable going, but criminals are the other. Anyone who's committed a crime is like different than me. They're bad. They're ostracized. And I think in the fullness of time, we'll even that's the deal, right? The ultimate truth is we're all stuck in this tiny atmospheric envelope, gonna die someday. We're all in this together. There's no reason to deny anyone human rights that you have the possibility of giving them in a responsible way. But soon deepfakes will become readily available to everyone, and it won't matter because they can pretend. They can just go back. Truth will splinter and disappear into nothingness, Dave. They'll go back and just say, I never said that. Deepfake news.
Deepfake.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Roger Stone already did that.
Did he say that
like today?
The January 6th thing is not real?
Yep. Yeah, he says deepfake, which is funny because I'm pretty sure they can still like prove it.
Yeah.
Also, you look at the footage and you're like, yeah, that's not deepfake.
Right. So far, we're not that good at it. You see samples where you're like, wow, that's a really good deepfake, but I can still tell technically. And there's an issue of resourcing. Yeah, Roger Stone was there. That's fine.
Yeah,
Let's
of course
accept
he was.
that. Yeah.
Well, on that subject, that perfectly transitions us to the actual show we're doing, right?
I think so. I think when you've hit stone bottom, it's time to move on.
Yeah, so let's let's dim the lights. Everybody shush up. The music is fading in, and the episode is beginning.
Yeah.
Welcome to Star Trek: The Next Futurama, an epic team-up between Gamefully Unemployed and Small Beans. For access to the entire series, find us on Patreon. And now your hosts, Mike and Dave.
All right.
Yeah!
Bender is back.
He's back, baby. We didn't even talk about that news. I guess because it's on topic, so we shouldn't have. This is good.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
As I think you could have sort of sleuthed out if you understand how Hollywood works, Bender saying he wasn't going to be in Futurama and Hulu saying, well, we're going to hire a replacement was all just theater while they negotiated John DiMaggio's fee. It's been negotiated to his satisfaction. Good. Great.
Yeah.
Voice actors deserve to be paid fairly.
Yeah, I hope they all get paid fairly.
I hope it affected everyone and not just him. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But that's great. And hey, folks, welcome to Star Trek: The Next Futurama.
Welcome.
I'm one of your hosts.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. I'm one of your hosts, David Bell.
I'm Michael Swaim, another host, and I would love to hear all the demo tapes of all the people who auditioned who are like, I think I sound like John DiMaggio because it's such a distinctive voice. I want to hear the people who are, it's like, dude, you don't really sound like John DiMaggio, you know?
Right.
I hope that's floating around somewhere someday.
It's a real bummer because I know, like, I've seen this actually dramatized in films and I forget what, but like the idea of you think you got a big break going and they're like, oh no, actually you were just a negotiation tactic. Like there's probably someone who thought they had Bender, that they were like, ooh yeah, I'm their guy, and then it was like, no, we were just using you to get this guy back. Like these things happen.
It's the Simpsons scene when they're casting Poochie, and he's like, that's the best voice I've ever heard. And then the next guy, and he's like, you're even better than the last guy. Take a hike, loser. Just spoiled for choice, yeah.
But yeah, for people who don't know what this show is, that's weird.
It's mostly loose horse shit about theater, deep fakes, stuff like that.
And we briefly talk about Futurama. No, we've been going through every Futurama episode in order, and we're matching them up with a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, and they've been matching up pretty darn good, I would say.
I still think the idea has legs, which is great because we're not that far in, but it'll be interesting when we get to like season 7, 8, 9 of Futurama. We'll see. Where we wouldn't have started the show if we didn't already verify that there are more Star Trek: The Next Generation episodes than there are Futurama episodes for now. But now there's going to be more Futurama.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I've been trying to like think ahead too when we match up episodes now because I didn't want us to like kind of blow our wad early. and match all the really good stuff up, and then have nothing. But yeah, we're up to season 2, episode 13 of Futurama, which is a Bicyclops built for 2.
Bicyclops.
Bicyclops. Yes, Bicyclops built for 2. Which is, I guess, should I just go through? It's as host, I go through the Futurama episode, right?
I think that's your duty, my friend.
So this was first aired in March of 2000. We are like weirdly right there with the show.
We're always seem to be matching up somehow.
Yeah,
there was one time where the date mentioned in the show was literally the date the episode we were recording.
Yeah, it was Labor Day. It was like Labor Day. No, I think we just happened to start making this right when they started. I don't know. It's weird. So Professor Farnsworth reveals that he's finally logged on to AOL, which that's why I noted that this was out in 2000.
Yeah, younger people won't even know what that is. Yeah.
Right. And like in 2000, that was a fresh reference. I thought at first like, oh, that's cute because AOL hasn't been around for a while. And then it was like, oh, wait. No, it's totally still going. So they quickly predict the metaverse by going into these virtual reality suits. The internet is filled with ads that they have to fight, pornography, and violence. And that's pretty much it. They go into virtual chat rooms. They enjoy porn.
There's ads.
Yeah. And Leela, in one of the chat rooms, reveals that she has one eye, she doesn't know where she's from, and she's looking for a man, and all the nerds are terrified. Bender is doing the Bender thing by doing fake phone sex as a sexy nurse avatar. And so they get bored with sex, and so they decide to do some violence. Instead, they play a VR like first-person shooter. Fry is amazing at it because he played video games, which is a hilarious trope that I love whenever it happens.
It's funny, but it's weird that he'd be good at like flipping and jumping in. I don't know. I just imagine the metaverse will handle differently than my PS5 controller does. That's all.
Right. It's again in all sorts of movies when they're like, "How'd you know how to do that?" They go video games.
I saw
and
the
it's
Wizard.
Like, that's not, yeah, and it's like that's not how video games work. And while in the virtual death match, Leela stumbles upon another one-eyed man who is like, "I saw you in the chat room. I wanted to talk to you." But Fry shoots him and takes him out of the game before she can learn who he is. And she's mad at Fry, but Fry is happy because he won. They leave the internet because they have to deliver popcorn to Cineplex 14. Good gag. On their way, Leela receives a message from the Cyclops, who reveals his name to be Alcazar, who says he has a home planet. She should come there. She dumps all the popcorn into the sun accidentally, goes to this planet where he introduces her to this long lost Cyclops city. I forget what it's called.
Well, I believe he says, "This is our planet, Cyclopia, in the Cyclops Nebula. This is our capital, Cyclops City. Stop me if I'm going too fast for you." He
also introduces the Forbidden Valley, where no one can go. He has a castle. He says that their planet was wiped out. He was cleaning a pool at the time, so he survived, and they sent one baby out, and that was Leela. So she's finally found where she comes from, and he's like, it's too bad. There will be no more of our species. And she's like, well, that doesn't have to be the case. And they bone, and they decide to get married, at which point Alcazar literally becomes Al Bundy from Married with Children. He starts taking her for granted, is a real asshole.
I don't know if this reference was even fresh at the time, but people still remembered Married with Children to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, there's a double thing here, because Leela is, what's her name? From Married with Children.
That's right. I forget.
Yeah.
I didn't watch much Married with Children, but Yeah,
she's
for
playing.
People who aren't aware, the older dude
Katie
from
Siegel.
Modern
Katie
Family.
Siegel.
Oh, you were trying to think of the actor. I thought you were trying to think of the character.
No,
name.
she's the wife, right?
Yeah.
In Married with Children.
I like to think of it as the older guy from Modern Family used to have a different family that he treated much, much worse. And it was considered a seminal sitcom at the time. I know a lot of Simpsons writers and then Futurama writers were big fans of Married with Children. So this was, good homage.
But again, I think it's just because Katie Siegel is both Leela and
what's her name?
Peggy.
Peggy, he got it. Thank you.
Go.
That's right, because he goes, no pig. That's right. That's his catchphrase.
And then flushes the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
So she's basically like trapped in this like engagement. He proposes to her. I think I don't know if and he has his shitty friends, Pig, Ratman, and his girlfriend. He treats her like crap. Fry is like, I think there's something up with this guy. She won't hear it because she wants to make this work because they're the last of their kind. Fry finally Fry tries to go to the Forbidden Valley, ends up in the dungeon, has to stay there for a while with a lot of fun bits, eventually escapes. He goes to the Hidden Valley and learns that there are 5 or 4 other
4 others for 5 total. Yeah.
5 total. 4 other kingdoms.
4 other castles, each more identical than the last.
Yep. And he finds another Cyclops statue, only this one has 5 eyes. They realize that. So what gets revealed is that Alcazar is actually a shapeshifter who is maintaining relationships with 5 different women who all think they're the last of their species, so he can bone them. And he openly admits to that. Then they basically they confront him with all the other women, and they beat him up. And then they return to Earth, and Leela is sad once again, wondering where her species came from, looking at the stars, not realizing that they're on their way to her home planet. Because that hasn't been revealed yet.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I assume they knew. I assume they knew at this point.
Yeah, there's a few things like they didn't know Fry was going to have a brother until they did. And then they're just like, well, we haven't mentioned that he doesn't have a brother, so that works. We can just retcon that. But I imagine that they probably knew. And the Nibbler thing they had to have known because his shadow is visible in the pilot. Right. Which is mind-blowing to me. It's like here's Arrested Development predicting the hand getting bitten off 2 seasons ahead of time.
Oh, yeah. Here's what I assume the shadow is, is that maybe they knew somebody was gonna, maybe, it's that thing of, remember how there was the plan that Krusty the Clown was going to be revealed to be Homer? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that where it's like they knew they were setting something up and they knew they could drop it if they had to or change it. They're like, we just need a shadow. And then yeah.
Like an interesting, The Wire didn't know if they were going to do a season 6 or not. So they have one of the characters, I forget who, but on the cop side, the bald guy who we're bad at pulling actor and character names this episode, but
fine.
It's been a while. I could rewatch The Wire. They show him at a gay bar and it's treated as like, oh, he's gay. That's going to affect things, and it never comes up again. And they were like, yeah, we, just laying pipe, putting up stuff that we could pay off if we keep rolling or not.
Right.
Fascinating to me, especially when we're now in this era of seasons have become shorter and shorter, and they seem to be almost like mini series. Like Stranger Things, I'm sure they've mapped out the end of the season when they start filming.
It's hard because I know the creators of that wanted 4 seasons and Netflix wanted 5. So that implies that they kind of only mapped out 4.
And then stretched for time. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, and then there's I know there's there were people talking about it on Twitter actually the other day about how they'll often like screw writers over by stretching the season that they pitch into like 2 seasons,
especially
or like
in animation. That's
season 1A
right
and season
now.
1B. Yeah. And it's like, man, that sucks, because that de-incentivizes them from really like crafting a show from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. And yet
it's
also interesting that there's so many shows now that it's rare. Like, it used to be a standard American thing that an order of a show was 23 to 26 episodes. That's wildly long. That's
too
so
long.
many.
That's honestly too long. Like, I think 15 would be like the sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think modern stuff, it's a little too low right now. Like when they put out fucking 8 episodes, I'm like, come on.
And then in
guys.
the UK, if you're a fan of shows from the UK, they'll be like, yeah, this is one of our longest running shows, 12 seasons. Each season, 6 episodes, 6 beefy episodes.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds leisurely. That's nice.
It both works and doesn't. Like Sherlock, it's like 4 episodes a season, but those episodes are feature length. And it's like, well, that's 4 movies then.
Yeah.
And that's great. Good job.
Yeah, I could be into that.
Yeah. You wanna tell our good audience, our wonderful audience,
absolutely,
what Star Trek episode this is matching up with?
A grin is creeping across my face because I think this is one of our best pairings, especially when we get to a particular point, which comes up pretty quick. So, the episode we paired it with, Dave, do you have the season and
season
episode number?
6, episode 3.
6-3. It's called Man of the People. And in Man of the People, in TNG land, the Enterprise has been called to aid an attacked transport ship because there's an ongoing conflict, as there so often is, between 2 planets in the area, and it threatens Federation routes. Interesting side note that they're like, I guess we'll get involved because this is threatening our trade routes. I wonder if there's all kinds of civil wars and genocides going on that they just let happen. I guess because the Prime Directive, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I think if it's an alien race that they've already like joined the Federation or they've established, I can see them doing that. But yeah.
Anyway, they're called the Rekag, Rekag, anyway, and they're fighting the Solarians, I think. And the Rekag attacked a shuttle that had the mediator aboard it, because as always in TNG, if you can just get the mediator to the place, there will be peace. Like, all it takes is this person to sort of do talk therapy with you, and it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and they're like the best at it.
Yeah. So they get this guy who's just the best at negotiating peace, beams aboard with someone he claims is his elderly mother. And we meet them. Troy meets them at the transport room, and immediately the mom to Troy is like, you want to fuck my son. I can see it in your eyes. You want to fuck my son. You can't. I'll stop you. He's mine. And he's like, I'm sorry. My mom is medically ill. You know, she has these fits or spells or whatever. But Troy looks a little troubled. Meanwhile, they kind of have just a significant look between them. And we're introduced to this dude whose name is Alcar.
Yep.
Compared to Alcazar. Just so, and that's not even why we paired these episodes.
It's not at all.
My
but
God.
Yeah, holy moly.
Yeah, all you have to do is take out the Z and you got him. So he sends his mom away to her quarters and gets a tour of the ship. Ends up in the ready room where he says he wants to approach the impacted planets in another unarmed transport, but Picard refuses, and some other Federation, like Admiral, says, yeah, it's too dangerous. Please let the Enterprise ferry you there. Basically just as an excuse, like, we're not going to get rid of this guy. He's the meat of this show. So Alcar is now on the ship as they travel to wherever the, like, whatever you would call it is going to be, the peace talks. Troy and he flirt on the walk back to his quarters. He explains his negotiation techniques, which he describes as like just staying patient, letting everyone else talk themselves out, and then improving a solution. And you're like, that makes mediating peace talks sound very easy. He also points out that as an empath, Troy would have a real advantage in his line of work, and his race is empathic, but only with one another. It's like a closed circuit network. They're not empathic to other life forms. She says, well, I am, and I can sense that you're full of nothing but good feelings, calmness, serenity, tranquility. It's amazing. Like, you truly embody peace, and that's obviously attractive to her. He asks her to come with him to Saronia to aid in the negotiations. You can see she's into it. She agrees. Then the mom bursts out of the room and again is like, "Did you try to mate with my son? Did you try to mate with you? Fuck my wife?" And says, "If you do, you'll regret it the rest of your life." Riker comes in because he needs Troy to help him write crew evaluation reports. But she's sort of distracted by what happened and confides in him and says that she's worried because from the mother, she senses nothing but evil and malevolence, and it's out of proportion. She seems like so angry all the time that Troy can't even understand it. He says, ignore it. She agrees. Maybe she's just senile. And he says, that could happen to all of us someday, which I don't think is true in the Star Trek universe, but regardless. After the evaluation, she says she's going to eat 2 ice cream sundaes, which just raises the question, are desserts fattening in the future, or is it like Synthacream? Because Troy's fit as hell.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, she
and
is fit as hell.
eating chocolate.
But she loves her chocolate.
Yeah.
I assume it's Synthacream, which, man, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's like the
Unless
McDonald's
it tastes like
ice
shit.
cream. It's just
It might be. It also might be like, you ever try British chocolate and you're like, oh, this is what chocolate should taste like. It might be that where like
no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Other countries have better chocolate because they have better
Really?
dairy than us.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. There's you can get it online and shit.
I think
get
Whole
it. There's
Foods
like
and shit have some imported British chocolate. Yeah, I'll try it.
Where in my hometown there's a British store that sells like British stuff, so I can. But yeah, I wonder if it's the same situation where like if they actually tried ice cream, they'd be like, oh my god, this is so much better.
I always end up looking at the British chocolate and then turning away because I don't like the names of British candy. Can I just admit
they're
that?
hilarious.
They're like Flaffles or Lil Wedgies or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. I'll stick with Rolos. Nice, strong American name. Ford Rolos. So anyway, the mom has died. That was a sudden jarring transition. The mom dies. Alcar says, Troy, can you join me in a funeral ritual that my culture does? It would really mean a lot to me, and we can continue to flirt with one another. And Troy's on board. He calls it a meditation, funeral meditation. They hold some rocks, and they say some things that are nice, like peace, it turns to love, and love is what we need. Oh, yeah. And a little spark flies from one rock to the other, and Troy looks disturbed. Act break.
Yep.
All right. So
and he's just like, gotcha.
Gotcha, bitch. So we come back,
out of the room.
and Troy seems agitated, upset. She's filled with negative emotions. Very curious. Cancels the counseling session with someone named Ensign Janeway, who you cannot convince me doesn't turn out to be Captain Janeway. And says like, maybe you don't belong. Janeway is like, sometimes I feel bad at my job. And she's like, then you should probably quit. Maybe you're not good enough to be on the Enterprise. And you're like, whoa, Troy. Troy's, something's going on with Troy. Meanwhile, Crusher wants to do an autopsy on the mom because she can't figure out why she died. Even though she was in her 90s, she has high levels of neurotransmitters in her cerebral cortex is what they say, but no organ failure. And it's like, well, her heart didn't fail. Her brain didn't fail. Why'd she die? Alcar forbids them from investigating the body further and says, in my culture, you don't desecrate the body or whatever. No autopsy. And Picard says, yeah, we got to honor that. So there's a little sea runner, basically, that will, of course, come into play later, of Crusher wanting so badly to cut this woman open and take her organs out, but they just won't let her. Troy does Tai Chi in a mirror, starts to get horny, fondles her own cleavage, and I guess this is just to establish that she's not just angry, she's also horny. So don't get it twisted.
She's horny angry, yeah.
She's hangry. She goes to Alcar and acts flirty, hits on him very clumsily. She says, what kind of woman do you find attractive? Do you find me attractive? When you find someone attractive, what do you usually do? It's like sex ed for teenagers.
Yeah.
They end up kissing, but he says, our relationship can't be like that, and she gets angry and storms out. She goes into the turbo lift, acts horny towards a random ensign. She's basically just insatiable. And then we cut to Riker going to her quarters to finish those darn evaluation reports. And that ensign is getting dressed and rushing out. So, and she's nipping hard. She's in a very flowy gown. She obviously just got her freak on with this ensign. And it's like, doesn't that bother you, Will? Does that trouble you? And he goes, no, we live in the future. It's fine, I'm Riker, for God's sake. Do whatever you want to do. I just want to get these reports done. And she's clearly distracted by other things. So he ends up saying, sorry, I intruded. When you're ready to work, give me a call, and leaves. They finally arrive at Rekog Saronia, which is where the peace talks are going to be held. And they get a report from the situation on the ground, which is getting worse, they say. Like, there's thousands dead, the ceasefire's been broken, neither side will negotiate, making it all the more amazing that Alcar can come in and after 4 hours they're like, you're right, our civilizations are at peace now. But that's how it works in Star Trek. So they plan a negotiation in a neutral city with the leaders of both groups. Meanwhile, Troy is, sorry, Troy sees Janeway again. This is where she treats her like crap. Previously, she just mentioned, I have to counsel Janeway.
She cancels.
So copy and paste,
first.
but she treats her like crap. Crusher and Geordi examine the transporter log, which proves that Alcar's mom was deteriorating physically ever since coming on board. Like that I don't understand what they mean, but they're like, none of her organs failed and her brain didn't fail, but also her cells, I guess it's that her cells were like disintegrating or deteriorating spontaneously. So Crusher's even more curious, but the autopsy's not allowed. We cut to 10 forward. Riker tells Alcar the negotiations are on. Data brings up that Troy is dressed very sexily and has some gray hair now, because of course it takes a robot to notice those things. She acts jealous, accuses everyone of being possessive or envious of Alcar. Riker pulls her aside and says she's way out of line and demands answers, and she just tries to get Riker to have sex with her.
He's almost does it.
He almost goes for it. He definitely would have if she hadn't brutally scratched his neck, like 4 strong crimson lines of blood down his neck, and he runs out while she screams, I need you, please. Alcar comes to see Troy. She turns to face camera, and we see she's much older now. She's like later middle age. He tells her, I'm leaving for the surface. She says, well, I'm coming with you like we agreed. He says no. She flips out. She obviously is not just generally horny and angry, but she has this possessive feeling for Alcar. He says, Deanna, you're my anchor. I need you more than you can possibly realize, but I need you here. She screams again, don't leave me. Don't do this, please. Constantly being abandoned in this episode. Then in the med bay, Riker tells Crusher Troy's acting weird while she fixes his scratches. That's a little scene. That's all. Advancing that ball. Alcar is about to transport down. Troy comes in and tries to kill his female attaché, basically out of a feeling of possessiveness. Picard gets in the way, and she ends up stabbing Picard in the shoulder, and she's even older.
Picard really has trouble fighting off this elderly lady.
Yeah, she does a good job stabbing young, strapping Jean-Luc Picard. But he says it's just superficial. I'm sure Crusher must be excited because there's lots of easy shit to treat this episode.
Yeah.
Really can't fuck it up. Just the skin regenerator and you're good to go. So they sedate Troy in the med bay because she's flipping out so hard. Crusher finally someone suspects. See, they needed Fry. Fry would have been onto this so fast. Crusher's like, I think this has something to do with Alcar's mother. And Picard goes, okay, do the autopsy. I don't care. Defile that body. Go Crusher on it. So Crusher does and discovers that the mom was aging prematurely, just like Troy, and that genetically they don't match Alcar's transporter log. Therefore, it's not Alcar's mother. So who's this mystery woman? Why were her cells degenerating? And why is it happening to Troy now? These are the questions of the day. Picard and Worf transport to the planet's surface to confront Alcar. And he admits, she wasn't my mother, but I'm mad you performed the autopsy against my wishes. Then he calmly explains, he's like, well, I guess you got me. So here's my whole deal, right? I shunt all of my negative emotions into people. These are human beings that I call receptacles. So I send my hate and anger and horniness, which that's interesting. These are the Star Trek writers officially saying horniness is bad. That's a bad emotion. You should feel shame. So his sexual feelings, his feelings of envy, jealousy, hate, rage, they all go to someone else. I don't know why he always chooses a young woman. We can get into that later.
Yeah, I think we know why.
I think because he's a piece of shit. But he always picks a young woman, and through this funeral ritual with the rocks, somehow he's able to shunt his negative emotions into people, and it prematurely ages them just through the sheer rage of it all. But because Troy is not of his species or whatever, he didn't know if it was going to work, and it turned out it works double time or whatever. That's why she's aging even more prematurely than he expected, far more than he expected. But basically explains, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care that you know this is what's happening. Fuck you, Picard. Picard doesn't, to his credit, immediately snap the guy's neck, which I feel like he would be, in his rights to do. Instead, just gives him a little speech saying he's a coward, he's an exploiter. He says, you're unwilling to shoulder the burdens of unpleasant emotions. Well, this time you will be held accountable. Meanwhile, the negotiations start to fall apart, and Alcar's like, you can't hold me accountable because I'm necessary to peace here. You'd be condemning thousands to death. And Picard's like, oh, you got me. So they teleport aboard the Enterprise and decide they must use cunning to foil Alcar instead. And basically Crusher comes up with a plan to kill Troy temporarily and says, yeah, if it's less than half an hour, I can bring her back to life. So that's canon. They got half an hour window when someone dies to bring him back to life. I wonder if they could have brought Tasha back, but that's neither here nor there. They kill her. They go down to the planet where Alcar is celebrating that apparently within half an hour, these
he did it.
Two planetary governments worked out their differences.
He's really good. He's like really good.
We sent Sean Penn to the Russia-Ukraine border, and in half an hour, he wrapped that shit up. Yep. So he's very, very good. But they tell him, Troy's dead. You're kind of fucked without a new receptacle. And he goes, this is true. You got me. So he asks his sexy young attaché, hey, any chance you'd do a funeral meditation with me? Dun, dun, dun. Cut to them being about to do that. Picard says, lock onto her because we want to pull her out of there if the funeral meditation goes too far. But in the meantime, I forget the last part of their plan, but I have notes.
They have to revive Troy. Oh, they're going to make sure she's
that's right.
Revived to 300% or something. They give some sort of milestone where they're like, if this number is this, then you can transport her out of here.
It's a hacking progress bar. They're just like, we got to get to 300 before the ritual's complete. They do. And Alcar does a great Home Alone face where he's just I imagine the director told him, so now a lifetime's worth of negative emotions have entered your body. React to that. And he doesn't really know what to do with it, so he just does a big face like, oh! And he immediately starts to age Dorian Gray style, becomes a withered husk before our eyes. I forget if they transport the lady out or she just wrestles.
They do.
They transport her out, and Worf runs in, but he's already dead. And Worf confirms the ambassador is dead. And they're like, well, that's good. We got peace, and this piece of shit's dead. Yeah. It's a good day for the Enterprise. Troy wakes up in medbay, sees Riker, and just says, Will. And she's back to normal. Riker and Troy kiss tenderly, but not hornily. And she says, thanks for sticking by me. And he says, I'll always stick by you, even when you're old and gray. Ha, 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 ha. End of episode.
You said Dorian Gray style, not Walter Donovan style, which, whatever, it's fine.
Who's Walter Donovan?
He's the bad guy in Last Crusade.
Oh, okay.
But
that's the third one. I have seen that. I have never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, Dave.
You've literally never seen the best Indiana Jones movie, then?
I thought everyone assumed, everyone said the third one is the best.
I would say the third one is my favorite, and it is probably, you could argue it's the best, but it's fucking Raiders, man. I don't know.
Okay.
It's Raiders has the grit, the full grit to it. Like, it doesn't matter. We don't have to. You should just watch that.
You play that Fate of Atlantis game, Dave?
No, I didn't.
That's a good Indiana Jones thing. Fate of Atlantis, point and click adventure.
I'll check it out.
All right. You're the host. Wrangle this shit.
All right. Well, now we're going to see how these two episodes pair up. Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to do. We've described the episodes. So let's move on to good news number one.
Good news. Number one.
I feel like so the Alcar and the Alcazar thing, very obvious.
The fact that both can be shortened to Al is just
yeah.
We nailed it. We're good at podcasts.
To the point that I wonder if Futurama they like specifically spoofed the name. I don't know. So obviously there's the fact that it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? It's this quote unquote nice guy who turns out to be like a pretty misogynist and trying to use women for personal gain, and is basically draining women for their own gain. And I would say both of those are that, right? This guy tricking Leela into just being a housewife that he gets to like boss around, versus Alcar, who is like it's who tricks Troy into being this receptacle for his negativity.
Look, I'm not defending Alcar, but at least his argument is, which is it's still bullshit, but his argument is only I can bring peace to these planets, so I'm saving thousands of people, so it's worth it. I like that Alcazar's is just, we all have dreams. My dream was to have 5 freaky aliens wait on me hand and foot and scrub my 5 identical castles. Can you honestly say in my situation you wouldn't have done the exact same thing?
He's a saint.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the that is that is the big difference, is that what Star Trek is actually nailing, and I think they've nailed before, is I'll call it the Sherlock Holmes problem that happens with characters a lot, or the Rick and Morty problem. Although I would argue Rick and Morty understands it and talks about it and addresses it more, which is the troubled genius who sucks. And it's like, or the Dr. House issue, obviously, which is like everybody like, well, he's so good at his job, he can treat people
good.
Like shit.
Yeah.
Schizoid or
man guy
the
is
Stanley
like that.
Kubrick problem. Yeah, and it's a toxic idea, and Star Trek is introducing that idea here, which is this guy is like, yeah, I can treat women like shit because I'm a genius, which is like most of human history, right? Like. And so like that, I'm glad they sort of did it that way, because it's like, well, he's a genius. What are you going to do? And it's like, you're going to fucking tell him to go to hell is what you're going to do. You're going to stop him, because it's not, no one is allowed to treat people like that.
Yeah, Abe and I wrote a sitcom pilot one time that of course crashed and burned, or you would have heard more about it, but about a key grip who is a hateful bastard, but he's so damn good that they can't fire him from the set, and everyone bends their lives around him. Yeah. Look at the way he set that light up. He's just too damn good. He's too good.
But yeah, in terms of similarities, both Leela and Troy they become, I don't know, bewitched and start like ignoring their responsibilities for this guy. Leela screws up the popcorn delivery. Troy is canceling everything on her calendar, being a shitty counselor.
They're it's specifically a love interest who also shares the thing that makes you unique. Like Leela has one eye, he has one eye. Troy's empathetic, he's empathetic. Like they are attracted by, oh, you are uniquely like me in some way, and we can connect quickly on that. And that's how the romance snowballs so fast.
Right, and he uses his species and like his abilities to manipulate people, right? Like that's in both as well, where he's like, you can't do an autopsy on my mother, my species won't allow it. Like it's all. And then there's the moment where it's like, Cyclops, we don't like to be hot. Take off your jacket. Yeah. Like it's the same idea, as they keep using their species as their excuse. They first meet in a place of combat, or they first bond rather. There's the video game, and then there's Worf's karate class.
Good point.
Yeah, both missions are around shipping, I guess. There's the shipping route and the popcorn. It's a thin one. Of course, lying and juggling multiple women. They're both doing that. That's part of it, where they're not just manipulating one person. They're manipulating many people because they don't actually care about people.
Yeah. And when they're both because this is the point of this show, is like we like to see how they navigate basically the same sci-fi or speculative concept, which in this case is some sleazy piece of shit siphoning you, like taking advantage of you. And it's interesting to me that they both use the idea of death or funereal, you know what I mean? Like the Cyclops, Alcazar, is like, well, you have to be with me because all the Cyclopses died. And Alcar is like, well, you have to be with me or all the Rekok Solarians will die. It's slightly different situation, but still playing on funeral stuff, pity me, be sad. It's it's not quite the game. They're not negging or peacocking, but they are being pitiable to get closer to the women that are their quarry. Yeah.
And ultimately, it's for superficial reasons. Both of them, he just wants no bad emotions, which is something everybody has to deal with, but him. And the other guy just wants to nail ladies. They both confess as if what they're doing, there's nothing wrong with it.
That's a big one. When caught ever so slightly, they immediately just go, yeah, you got me. Here's what I do. Here's my deal. That's a very interesting structural similarity.
Right. I'd also say Riker is Fry. Right? That's two characters with a romantic connection who are concerned about the situation, not just because of the romantic connection, but actually as a friend. Like, Fry is right.
That's true. I think of Crusher as Fry because Fry actually goes to the Forbidden Valley and Crusher actually does the autopsy. Is like,
right. Well, I would say it's all three, Will, Crusher, and Picard, because Picard also gets held at gunpoint, like Fry gets put in the dungeon.
Yeah, Picard gets stabbed, just like Fry getting put in the dungeon and eating tacos through the grate.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in the whole thing, man, is I'm stuck in this. I got to get out of this dungeon. I'm just letting my waist fall where it will, like an animal. Animals go in the corner. the corner, of course.
That's so good. That's it for connections. I think it's pretty clear. It's really like I love that they were both just like, watch out for the secretly toxic nice guy who just wants to actually just drain you.
Yeah.
That's basically what both people are doing. They're draining them emotionally. In one case, literally. Well, no, in both cases, literally. But in one case, like in a physical, psychic way.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a home run, Dave.
That's a home run right there. So let's get into talking about the episodes with our next section that is called Bite My Shiny Prime Directive. Go!
Bite my shiny Prime Directive.
Yeah, that was no Xmas story. That one was tough.
No.
This one was easy.
This one was easy.
In fact,
we had
5 or 6 that could have fit, but the Alcar thing just was the nail in the coffin.
Oh, yeah. And Star Trek often would do the, like, this is a great man who's secretly X,
flawed.
you know? Like, yeah.
Anything to give Picard a chance to be morally superior and be like, shame upon you, sir. You've betrayed the truth. They love that.
I love how Futurama both predicted the metaverse and didn't predict that we would still link up the phone to the internet. It's very funny that they're like, it's the future. So like the internet will be VR, but also like the professor needs them to sign off so he can use the phone, and AOL is still a thing. That's cute.
And yet it is. Yeah. I was very tickled because it's on everyone's minds lately that they did such a I had forgot Futurama did such a robust Ready Player One style metaverse thing where you're like, and they come back to it repeatedly. I'm thinking of the Lucy Liu episode where they're like, websites are represented by doors that you walk through, and for all we know, that might be kind of how it is. You know,
I actually don't think that. I mean, I just did a whole Some More News about this.
Sure,
I think the metaverse is not. I think the metaverse that everybody keeps like pretending is going to happen is not actually going to happen. I think, we're not going to do virtual shopping because why would we? That's harder than shopping on our phone. Like, we want things to be easier, right?
I completely agree with that, and that's why things like interoperability of video game items won't happen, because you're not going to take a shotgun from Doom Eternal into Elden Ring, because the Elden Ring designers would be like, well, that fucks the whole balance of our game.
Right.
But I still think that there will be some kind of 3D or ARG. I feel like ARG is more likely. Representation of the internet. The internet is not going to stay fully 2D. Some components of it are going to become 3D.
I think augmented reality is a future. I think if they make stylish glasses that aren't Google Glass, that like you could turn on and off, I think augmented reality is very useful. I think VR will always be around and always get better. I just don't think it'll replace like work, and shopping. I think it'll just be like fun. And there are VR chat rooms and stuff, but I don't think it'll, it's not, we're not going to be living in the metaverse.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that the Futurama depiction and the Ready Player One depiction of the idea that the internet will soon be more than it is now is vaguely correct in some way. Who knows what the actual nuts and bolts of it will be. But it was just interesting for them to hop on that so quickly. It certainly won't be, because I agree with you about the VR, one of the big hurdles is, well, I don't want to wear a headset for many, many hours. It's not going to be a suit. They put on full suits and get haptic feedback and actually jump around in physical space. That ain't going to happen. But yeah.
No. Yeah, and we're already in a augmented reality. I'm sitting here with two screens talking to you, how many miles away. It's just it's you always think about smartphones, which is what's a way to make things more convenient, to make the internet more convenient and more blended with our lives, which is why augmented reality seems more likely. But even that, I don't know if people like the idea of cameras on everybody's face. I don't know. We'll see.
And it's not up to us, Dave. It's up to the Zoomers.
Yeah. Imagine taking a Klingon karate class hosted by Worf.
Was it a karate class? It looked more like Tai Chi to me.
It's it's whatever Klingons do, right? I assume it's a Klingon combat.
Okay.
That's my assumption.
You think they fight very slowly?
I don't know. No, I think it's. I just assume it's.
That was the warm up or something.
Yeah,
or the cool down.
That's my assumption.
Okay.
Is that it's some sort of Klingon. I don't know.
My understanding
maybe someone else
was that Worf trains by going into the holodeck and having monsters attack him.
Oh yeah, but he's running that class.
Sure.
So I just think it's funny that they can do that. That the crew members it's like a community community space, the Enterprise,
right,
where Worf has to put up little flyers or something.
And Geordi might be like, well, I know how to spin pottery. Who wants to come learn to spin pottery?
Yeah. That's fun.
What would Data do?
Oh, he would teach the fucking instruments and shit.
I guess so. That was boring.
Yeah.
I thought that question would be more fruitful. This is where we just talk about the concept, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I always find it so interesting. So I got another podcast that's about to launch on the Small Beans Network called Razorblade Pie, which is a short story club where we talk about the stories of Harlan Ellison. And I'm not just trying to plug it. I also wanted to, it's just on my mind because the first episode we talked about a story called The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World. The basic concept of which is that negative emotions are a tangible substance, and there's this place in space-time far in the future called the center where it's like heaven, and that's where our visions of heaven come from, or what we imagine to be heaven is actually this place. And the reason it's that way is because they shunt all negative emotions out of it, and that's why we have insanity and illness and hate. So it's at what cost? And I always find it interesting that a lot of speculative fiction treats madness or hate not as a behavioral pattern, but as a substance that can be shunted around. Rick and Morty has done the same thing, right? They went to a spa that split their negative emotions. What do you think about that? Is there any truth to that? Is it a zero-sum game? By which I mean, do you think it could ever be possible that all the humans on Earth, even hypothetically, I know there's hurdles in the real world sense, but in a perfect world, would everyone feel happy and healthy and loving all the time? Or does someone have to be a bastard? Like, is that a rule?
I don't think there is such a thing as negative emotions. I think there are negative actions. I think things like envy and hate and I guess sadness are tools. They're part of who we are, and like I would never want to eliminate that from myself, because negative emotions can result, like stuff like anger results in good things. Being angry of what's going on in Texas with trans kids results in people
standing
hopefully
up.
Doing good
Right.
things. You just have to know how to direct that, Like if you're angry about what's going on in Texas and you decide to bomb a building, you did it wrong. But if you decide to say move to Texas and flood Texas with positive people and start supporting these kids, then you're doing a good thing out of anger. So I just reject the idea of a negative emotion in general.
Not that they don't exist, but you wouldn't call them negative.
Like
you're not saying hate doesn't exist or people don't ever feel it, right?
Right. I'm saying that what's inside of us is what makes these things bad is when the stuff inside of us manifests in the physical world, right? We do bad things based on those negative emotions. So I just don't think I think the idea of purging negativity, negative emotions, like I just don't think that's what anybody should aspire to. It's more about controlling them.
As someone who's had chronic, deep, dark, self-loathing depressions where I like bang my head on the wall until there's blood marks on the wall and shit, I somewhat disagree. There's an extremity of emotion that I would rather not feel, that I do think is just useless bad chemicals sloshing around in my brain, and it's not helping anyone. Right. And it doesn't lend more beauty to my life, or the idea that, oh, now I can appreciate joy. It's like, I didn't have to be that sad to appreciate joy. I'll tell you the one that I really feel that way about is envy. If I could press a switch and never feel envious, it feels so pointless to feel envy. It doesn't ever lead to an action that is interesting or useful.
But it could. Because if you envy someone, then you are telling yourself that you want your life to be different in that specific way, right? And it could be used as a motivator. But yeah, as you can tell, I'm a person who's never dealt with chronic depression personally from my answer. You're absolutely right about that. I've dealt with very negative, dark emotions, but not on a level where it's like I need to be medicated, or like I've said previously, I've never gone to a therapist. So it's very easy for me to say this stuff for sure.
I do agree with you that a diet of certain amount, I would never eliminate all sadness. Sadness is a very good emotion, which is weird to say, but South Park did an episode about it that always stuck with me, where there's I think it's the Goth Kids episode, and they're like, but weren't you trying to conquer that sadness or something to Stan? And he's like, you know what I learned today, in the way that South Park does? Right. It's okay sometimes it feels good to feel sad, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. Everyone knows what they mean by that. Like sometimes it's instructive to feel sad, sometimes you need to feel sad, etc., etc. I think it's a matter of proportion. Like I think as depicted in the TNG, if you're screeching, no, please don't leave me, are you fucking my husband, like he's mine,
right? And there are people, I've met people, miserable people, they're usually people who do bad things to other people,
right?
Where you look at them and you're like, you're just filled with negativity. Like you're just like you're living in hell, because it's a person who just can't stop being envious and being like, it's often people like this guy in these episodes where it's like you just can't stop feeling negativity, and it just radiates out of you.
Interesting that you use the term radiates, because I do feel like, I guess why I bring up that it's interesting to me, but it feels purely hypothetical, that so many sci-fi stories treat negative emotions as a substance you can like trade. Like I could take 8 anger and give it to them, and then I don't have it anymore. Right. I just think that's an interesting thought experiment that has no basis in reality. I subscribe to the idea that we sort of vibrate and resonate with various emotional states, and they bring it out in each other, right? Like if I'm angry with my partner, they're more likely to be angry with me back. Anger begets anger. That's why we fight. Whereas like if you can be chill and accommodating and focused and level-headed, that tends to inspire that in others around you. So I think I think it's almost the opposite is actually true. It's not a zero-sum game where you're filled with anger and then you pour it out of yourself. It's more like practicing maintaining your being present and being positive. That is infectious. It radiates out and you don't lose it. Like if you're happy and it makes someone next to you happy, you're both happy. Nothing was reduced or lost. You didn't like lose your happiness to give them happiness. Yeah, and it kind of sucks in that way because if you're in a bad mood and you slap somebody, it doesn't get rid of that negativity. No. And it hurts their mood. It doesn't make you feel better. Yeah. It just kind of compounds it. Yeah. And so that's what's going on here. Like this person, this weird alien, like he's not getting rid of his negativity at all. He's just dumping it into the world, I guess. Yeah. So it's just interesting to me that speculative fiction often is trying to say, imagine the future. It'll probably be like this based on current trends. This is some facet of life that I think is true based on. But some speculative fiction is just like, this is not true, but what if it was? Right. It's more fantasy. Like, what if emotions worked this way? What if emotions were a checkerboard? And if you take their rook, then the emotion trades. Yeah. And that makes sense for Troy as an alien, like the Betazoid. Once you go down that road, you start doing stuff like this, where it's like, oh, she can sense emotions. So emotions are tangible things that they're like radio waves, which I just don't think that's true either. And so it's just like that. I guess that's what I'm going at, where it's like, it's about how you physically manifest. The action's the manifestation. Right. Yeah. Like how a piece of art is actually an event that occurs between someone observing an object. It is both the experience of the observation and the object itself. I think emotions are, like you're saying, emotions are like that. Emotions manifest as actions, and that's what actually has the ability to impact someone else's emotions. But it is interesting that you can be impacted by something as small as like, I know Jen so well that I can see minor muscular changes in their face and know, oh, they're in a bad mood, and that makes me feel certain feelings. Yeah. It's interesting on such a fine level. Like, you don't need to be a Betazoid. We're all, most of us, other than people who I feel like have the misfortune of having borderline personality disorder or psychopathy or something, we are empath machines. We're pretty damn empathic. Look at the fact that we take animals and pretend that they must have feelings exactly like my palette of feelings. My cat is like me. It comes out in Star Trek all the time where they'll talk to someone who's like a Klingon that's like screaming at them, and the screen will go off and Troy will go, he's angry. And it's like, we all know Troy. We all know he's angry, Troy. You might be overestimating. Like, he's hiding something, and it's like, no shit. Yeah. Your empathic abilities relative to just normal empathy. Yeah, exactly. I wonder if you were an empath and you got radio waves in your brain that just told you angry, happy, hiding something, I wonder if her ability to read like physical body language and social cues is actually stunted, because you wouldn't need that, right? It would be like everyone is a blank slate that just says what their emotions are. Remember the episode? Troy loses her powers and becomes insufferable. Right, because she can't use normal means to pick up people's emotions. Exactly. That exact thing happens. Troy has this like free reign to like be like, because she devastates this ensign in the therapy. She can go to that ensign and be like, I was psychically affected. No big deal. And it's like she could do that anytime she has a bad day. Yeah, I got impregnated by a light from space. Well, cut me some slack. Yeah. It's going to be especially awkward with the ensign that she throws her sex at. That poor little guy. unnamed
is going to
ensign.
be like, he's going to be walking through the hallways and running into her. Like, he might have left and been like, oh, this is the start of a whole relationship with Troy. You know, like maybe his heart was really in it. We don't know. I
feel like at some point in the Star Trek universe, the people from the lower decks must understand that, well, the bridge crew are one and done. If you get in a relationship with the bridge crew, it will resolve by the end of the episode. No one on bridge crew ever sticks with anyone. Even Vosh and Picard is like, 2-3 episodes and then it's resolved.
So many have fucked Riker, right? Just Riker alone. Mm-hmm. They must know at this point. They must. Hopefully, he's just going back to his room and being like, I fucked Troy, you guys. She's full of some sort of weird psychic energy, and she was open for business.
Did you ever read Stranger in a Strange Land, the Heinlein book? It posits a future. I mean, it was written during the free love movement, but it posits a future where people live in big clusters, and when you meet someone on the street you might like blow them, right? You know what I mean? Like, people have sex very casually just to be friendly and make each other feel good, because who cares? And I feel like Star Trek sometimes sneakily has shades of that, where you're like, casual sex seems totally acceptable in this future.
Oh yeah. When Riker opens the door and Troy's wearing that nipple outfit, he is immediately DTF. Like, he's like, oh, we're going to have a sex meeting, I see.
Yeah.
And then the ensign is there and he's like, oh,
yeah.
You already
and she's
had
like,
a sex
does it
meeting.
bother you that I had sex with someone else? He's like, of course not. Why would it?
Yeah.
This is all fine.
I've also had sex with that ensign. It's fine, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've done this on the holodeck many times.
Yeah, that's what the ensigns are there for.
Oh, well, that starts to seem exploitative, but in its own way.
I guess should we just talk about some Futurama jokes?
I think we're ready. I mean, we talked about the nature of feeling and the metaverse. Yeah, we did it. Let's do it. Let's do joke roulette. My favorite part.
All right. The mailman, I like just the bit with Nibbler. Mailman firing at Nibbler and then the professor stepping on Nibbler. Mm-hmm. It's pretty great.
I like when they're getting into the metaverse suits. Leela says, these smell like burning Reese's monkey. And the professor says, really? I guess when you're around it all day, you stop noticing.
Off you go.
Off you go.
There's, of course, the 2001 reference. My God, it's full of ads.
Mm-hmm. Bender telling Fry, I'm telling you, Fry, they have a chat room for everybody. And here it is. And you see a door that says filthy, filthy chat room. Then Amy and Leela go, that's disgusting. Men are pigs. And they go into a chat room just called filthy chat room. Just one.
Right. And then, of course, the nude pictures. I just took pictures of your face and stuck them on someone else's body. Leela's looking in going, hey. Mm-hmm. Thanks to the internet, I'm now bored with sex. Great line. Very relevant.
I like the whole thing, though. But is there a place on the web that panders to my lust for violence? Is the Space Pope reptilian? I like that because we will later meet the Space Pope, and of course he will be an alligator man, because there's consistency on Futurama sometimes when they decide to. Then they play Death Factory 3, The Legend of Death Factory 2, and I just want to point out that Fry kills a non-named NPC who is clearly David X. Cohen, which I just like that Easter egg.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like Alcazar's email that says to Leela, subject hello, that he has to say out loud.
Yeah.
This is silly.
I find it interesting that Donkey Kong is in the metaverse game, because that's apparently the only video game reference that the Futurama writers think we understand is Donkey Kong.
They love that reference.
They love throwing barrels.
And again, that idea, the 2D, where they're like, see, Fry would be good at this game because he's good at video games. It's like, no, that's, again, not how it works.
I mean, I do nothing but play video games. That doesn't make me good at Elden Ring when I start playing it. It's a whole new experience every time.
It doesn't make me good at a gunfight, like a physical activity. Look at that statue. It only has one eye, Fry. Lazy sculptor. Mm-hmm. I liked that.
A little before that, it's still in reference to the video game. Fry, Are you still mad at me for wrecking your once-in-a-lifetime chance to learn the meaning of your existence? Leela, no. I'm just happy you were able to win a video game. Now let's just focus on getting this much-needed popcorn to the people of Cineplex 14. And then I also love that when they do blow up the popcorn, it forms a spiral arm galaxy. Just because I know that the Futurama writers know this, and this is why they did it, and I know that it's funny to them. That is true. Like, that purports to the laws of physics. You know what I mean? If you had a bunch of low mass dots and you scattered them at random, they would become that pattern, which is
that's amazing.
Fucking stupid.
Those idiots. Fry, what's over that hill, Alcazar? The Forbidden Valley, a holy sanctuary where no one must tread. Fry, is it anything like a cemetery? Because I got to take a leak.
This sacred mosaic depicts our goddess of beauty. Yeah? You got any sacred artwork of her from the back?
Oh, that's great.
You remind me of her, Leela. Had our race survived, you would have been a temple priestess or supermodel.
His story with the eyeless mole people of Subterra 3 when they fire it and the guy says, how far do you think it is? He goes, 1 trillion miles?
Boom. Also, just saying that the eyeless mole people fired missiles in all directions, hoping to hit Cyclopia. Unfortunately, one of the 40 planets hit was ours.
I mentioned it before. You look hot, take off your jacket, or people don't like to be hot.
Yeah, similarly, because he's starting to turn evil. Make me some coffee, will you? What do you take with that? Pancakes and sausages. Kitchen's in the basement. Pancakes are in the attic.
That's so good.
Yeah. Pans are in the attic.
I really love Bender. His arc of just looting the place. I'll do the dishes. Hey, where'd they go? Bender just walking around clanking.
With dish sound.
And then later he's all thieved out. And then, of course, his turn is like, no, wait a second. No, I'm not.
Bender, Leela's experiencing the greatest joy a woman can feel, worshipping some low-life jerk. Fry. He may be some low-life jerk, but I don't trust him.
It's so good. When Fry confronts Leela and says, like, yeah, it's obvious he's bad, Leela says, if it's obvious to you with your learning disability, then it's obvious to
me. Then of course it's obvious to me. Here's a line that, just sometimes the cadence or the delivery sticks in your head. Here's a line I say to Jen a lot when we're eating dinner. Hey, Leela, what gives? Pig says your slop tastes like crap. Yeah, like crap.
So good. I love Ratman and his girlfriend.
Oh yeah, they're getting married.
Oh man. When Fry gets out of the dungeon, it's time for this bird to walk.
I like that they call it a pre-wedding chugathon.
Yep.
Sign joke.
Zoidberg crying at the wedding. That pig over there is wearing the same sandals as me.
Let's see. Each more identical than the last. That's not really a joke. I remember. The joke is that they find a matching mosaic, and Fry goes, "Look, it's another Cyclops, but this one has 5 eyes."
That's great. And then, of course, the ending speech and Bender.
Mine was to make it. Yeah, he's a saint. Yeah. Why did you have all of 5 weddings on the same day? Hey, lady, do you have any idea what it costs to rent a tux that changes shape?
It's solid. That's one where they're like, they probably thought about that inconsistency or that, and they're like, well, we can probably throw it away with a joke.
Find a way to joke around that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many ways Alcazar could have pulled this off. Like, his plan is objectively bad.
I love that he built these kingdoms. Like, they never addressed that. Like, he had these kingdoms, like, physically built, so he can make it with 5 chicks.
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort.
Quite an ambitious sleaze. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about which episode did it better?
Let's do it.
All right. This is a section called 2 to knock it up a notch. Bam! Energize.
What 9? Knock it up a notch. Maximum warp. Bam!
Make it so.
Engage. No, don't engage. Energize.
This is tough because I do like them both. Where do you fall on this?
Oof. I didn't pre-think about it, and as we've discussed them, I do think they're relatively the same quality. It's really a toss-up. I also feel like, okay, I'm giving it to TNG, and I'll tell you why. I do think that is more of a time-honored sci-fi trope, as we've discussed. What the Futurama really has going for it is this is one of the first episodes where Leela has an arc. Leela was not fridged in this. She's not a wet blanket. She has like a thing to do. It's a Leela episode. God, I love that. We'll get more of them. But
meanwhile, though, I will say Troy, what's her name, is doing a great
Marina
job
Sirtis,
in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she has to do like her weird sexy thing in front of the mirror, it's like a oneer.
That's what I was going to say. So the TNG also gives Troy a lot to do, and it embraces more of a real sci-fi trope, which is the idea that what if emotions were a tangible substance? So I'm going to give it to TNG just because I find it to be more hardcore speculative fiction in this case. Whereas the Futurama, as I keep referencing, like the one where they switch brains and it's mathematically accurate, or the one where time keeps skipping forward, these are like true, really tickle my sci-fi brain. Like, this is real sci-fi. Whereas this one's more of like a sitcom episode. Like, what if a sleazy guy took advantage of? The only real thing that's speculative about it is that he's a shapeshifter, which only comes in at the end and is just like how he's undone. So I kind of like the TNG slightly more because it's constantly navigating an actual sci-fi thing.
I agree. I also like how they handle his scumbagness better, where he justifies it in this very like, I'm doing the greater good
Instead
kind of way.
Of just going, I'm a piece of shit. What are you going to do?
And so, like, I do like the way it handles the idea of a toxic person like this and how they justify it.
Yeah, literalizing toxic masculinity.
Yeah. All right.
2 for Star Trek.
Star Trek has it. Well, let's do our final section and answer some cues. This is hailing frequencies open, Captain. I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Open hailing frequencies.
Frequencies open, sir.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
I got some up here.
Great.
I put out a thing last night. I'm sorry I haven't looked at it. I looked at it this morning, but I haven't looked at it in the last hour because we've been podcasting.
Oh, dude, when it's my turn to host, I go back to your old threads and just take questions you didn't pick, so don't worry about effort.
Ryan Meeker Windu asks, so, like, what's up? What's your guys' deal?
My deal is that I have the classic entertainer thing where I need constant validation from all sides and all sources. So I make my entire identity sharing myself with the public in the hopes that people will approve of me. But I'm getting better at it as I get older.
Okay.
That's what surfaced first when he asked what my deal is.
Sure. Mine was just like, hanging.
God,
pretty good.
Yours was way less revealing. I feel naked and exposed now.
I'm sorry.
Fuck.
Well, another pond duck, or Oliver Allen asks, if you could wipe one flavor from your memory, what would it be? I actually have an answer to this that I'm passionate
immediately.
about.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. The flavor of tomato-flavored ramen noodles by, I forget which company. They discontinued it. It's not Top Ramen. It's the other one.
Maruchan?
They discontinued it. Yeah. They discontinued it decades ago, and I still remember the taste because it's my favorite flavor of ramen noodles ever, and I'll never have it again, and that makes me sad every day.
But sadness
I wish I could
good,
forget.
Dave. We just discussed
I wish.
this.
Yeah, I wish I could forget the flavor so I wouldn't be sad.
You'd rather forget something good that happened to you than not have it again?
Because I can't get it again.
But that's all of, like, everything in life. One day you'll do it for the last time. Does that mean you wish you had no memory of anything you ever did?
No. just this flavor.
Just this one thing. All right.
Yeah, because here's
You're like,
the thing,
I don't
the
have to
flavor's
explain
also-
myself to you. That's what I
Well,
chose.
the flavor is low stakes enough. You know, like if I fell in love with someone who died, I wouldn't fucking Eternal Sunshine that shit.
That's what I'm getting at. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's just this flavor haunts me because I really liked it. I'll never get it again. I can almost taste it. And it's like, I got better things to focus on. Wouldn't it be great if I could just wipe this flavor out so I don't long for it all the time?
Well, I took it the exact opposite way. I would erase a flavor that sometimes I recall, and it makes me gag just to recall it. And I hate it so much that I
Is it cat
obviously
anus?
wish it was removed from the... What?
Is it cat anus?
No, you know, it's interesting because my cat has expressed their anal glands into my mouth, as I think you
I know.
and I immediately vomited on myself, and it was one of the worst days of my life. But I can't remember what that tasted like with any clarity. It was too much panic, like the moment, you know what I mean? All I remember is
Right.
that it happened. I don't like wake up at night remembering cat anus gland flavor. But what I do remember is when I used to have ulcers and I had to chug thick like aloe vera gel every day. And it doesn't taste as bad as something that tastes bad, but it tastes alien and foreign. Like, I don't know about other people who drink aloe vera juice and maybe are fine with it, but to me, the experience was I gagged so hard as I tried to like chug that. I had to chug a big thing of aloe vera juice every morning for months. And my body was just constantly screaming, this is not food. This is plants. This is like a plant you're eating.
I definitely, yeah.
You're eating something that you shouldn't. You're like eating grass. Why are you doing this? And I remember the flavor very clearly, and I hate it so much. I would wipe that out.
That makes sense. I once mixed Elmer's glue with bourbon to see what it tasted like, and I still remember that taste.
I once
wasn't good.
Drank isopropyl alcohol and tasted it for several days after.
Oh.
Bad move.
Yeah.
I did it for a laugh. See previous question answer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll keep this light. I grabbed 5 questions, but I'm just gonna grab the first 3 because they're all kind of like this. Moomin Cruiser asks, what's the earliest adult animated show y'all can remember falling in love with? In parentheses, mine is Home Movies. I love Home Movies.
Home
that was
Movies
great.
is one of my favorite shows of all time.
But like, unfortunately, mine is super boring because of my age. It's The Simpsons.
Trying to see if I can think. Well, when you say adult, my brain went to like cartoons that I wasn't allowed to see because my dad is kind of a no filter guy when it comes to sexuality. Let us watch whatever we wanted. Showed us shit that you shouldn't show kids that young, too young. So like Fritz the Cat came to mind and things like that, or like R. Crumb stuff that made me feel weird and uncomfortable. But if you're talking about the genre of adult animated comedy, it is also The Simpsons. I've told this story before on the air, but it's short, so here you go. Somehow my dad had the foresight to sit us down when Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, the very first Simpsons episode, aired, and tell us, this is going to be huge. This is important. Watch this. This is going to be a huge show. I still don't know, like, how did he know that at that time? But ever since The Simpsons premiered, it was a sacred thing in my household, and we would watch it as a family every Sunday. So it's definitely Simpsons. Yeah,
we did Simpsons, X-Files. There was always like
we did Simpsons
a block
and
between
Jeopardy.
the two. Nice. I do remember the first time I saw Adult Swim, which was a lovely time. I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I was very inebriated, and they had like a Scooby-Doo spoof that they played, where it played out like a Scooby-Doo episode, but it was just like slightly off and funny. And I remember watching it and not knowing that it wasn't Scooby-Doo.
Oh.
And I was just like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
And then and I thought I was losing my mind. And then the second thing that came on was C-Lab's episode Waking Quinn.
I was about to say
where he
C-Lab.
keeps getting Yeah, where he keeps getting electrocuted.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, again, me like, am I losing my fucking mind right now? Because I didn't know that Adult Swim was a thing, period. And these look like old cartoons.
Yeah, Space Ghost, The Brack Show, and
Space
C-Lab
Ghost.
were all huge for me. A little later than The Simpsons,
Yes.
but totally life-changing. The C-Lab
Yes.
where the dude gets caught under the vending machine and stung by scorpions over and over. And the C-Lab where they form separate countries and go to war with each other. I'm going to rewatch C-Lab. Fuck it.
It's so good.
It's
Space
so
Ghost
good.
is my favorite. That was my
Underrated
college
still.
years. That and of course Strong Bad. It's Strong Bad, C-Lab, Space Ghost, Aqua Teen, and Brack Show. Yeah.
Aqua Teen took a long time for me. I couldn't understand what Meatwad was saying, literally, and was like, it's too cruel and angry and punk and empty. It's like too hollow and fucked up.
Right.
And then something just clicked eventually. I
They
was
have
like,
some really
no,
good
it's funny.
episodes,
It's
though.
super funny. The Moonanites, it's great. I love it now. But it took a while.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
all right,
adult
well,
animation's
that's
kind of the
question.
best.
What's that?
I think adult animated comedies are kind of my favorite kind of media, maybe.
Adult Swim, it's hard because it's also like very nostalgic. But there was a time where I would like get home from work, open my window, crawl outside of my parents' house, get high on the porch, and then just like sit and maybe smoke a cigarette and watch Adult Swim. And that was that golden age in my room with my TV and my computer.
Yeah.
It was just so
So
like
perfect.
that. Those memories are so vivid.
Big part of why we do what we do, I should think.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, if you're looking for just another answer, because I love talking adult-oriented animation, FLCL was huge for me. Did you ever see that? Sometimes called Fooly Cooly.
No.
It's a miniseries, but I saw that pretty young, and it stuck with me forever. The plot doesn't really cohere, but it's beautiful to behold, and made me feel weird because I saw it when I was too young.
Right.
So maybe check that out.
All right, I will.
All right.
Okay, well, this is going to go up on the Gamefully Unemployed, so do you want to plug some stuff?
I will derail the whole thing by asking, are you sure, or do we want to make this one free? Was it a good episode?
Oh, do we want to make this free? This was a good episode. I could see it being free.
I think we should, because every once in a while we like to release one on the free feeds just so that the people who are listening but don't patronize us know that this is a thing, remember that this exists, and can choose to patronize us if they want.
Let's make it free. Let's
Okay.
make it free.
Great, then I don't got to plug shit.
Well, we both have to plug shit now because since this is free,
Whoa.
if you want to get the other episodes, you got to go to two Patreons, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed and patreon.com/smallbeans. We interchange the episodes between us. Just to quickly plug Gamefully Unemployed, we also have two exclusive podcasts, Fox Mulder's Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama. Those are only under our $5 a month pledge. There's other tiers there you can find. There's a lot of fun stuff. There's also Spiel Boys, which is also between Small Beans and Gamefully Unemployed.
Also split between, yes. And then on Small Beans, our exclusive patron-onlys are Scientifics and Bewilderments, which is an improv comedy cast with Cody Johnston and various great guests. Tales from the Pit is on there. As I said, we got a new one coming out that's a book club you can read along with us. A bunch of Harlan Ellison short stories. That's called Like Razorblade Pie. And Director Piece Theater is our other big one over there. Oh, and One-Upsmanship, the video game one, but that's always free.
Yeah, and it's always delightful to listen to.
And I know it sounds like a scam that we've split these up and put them behind two paywalls, but I gotta be honest, it's like $6 a month to get all of it, and you get a lot. So I don't feel, you know what, fuck you. I don't feel bad about it.
No, we offer a lot for a pretty small
We try
amount.
try to make it worth your buck.
And honestly, you can like, I probably shouldn't say this. You could do like 1 month and just like listen to everything and then stop.
Yeah, binge and quit.
I don't.
That's acceptable to us.
I'd rather not because I like your support, but like, yeah, that's an option. I'm not going to frown upon it. People, not everybody can afford things. I get it, you know?
Absolutely. So it's nice to give them a little Star Trek now and then.
Yeah, and we of course we have on our regular networks we have plenty of free podcasts as well. We're doing fine.
Mm-hmm. And if by the time you're listening to this, we will have just had a Dungeons and Dragons stream. So if you missed that, look for that.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Should be fun. We're in the past, so we haven't done it yet.
Right. It could be a disaster for all we know.
We'll see.
We'll see what the future, our future and your past
holds.
Great. Should be fun.